Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits Encounters video. Well, thank you so much everyone for your feedback on my last video, the one I did involving drugs, demons, and exorcisms that had a really long story associated with it. Looks like a lot of you really like the long story, so I'll try to mix those in and see what I can find later on. This one though, I wanted to do a little bit of an opposite when it comes to this encounter. I've been doing so many scary ones that I thought in this case I would do a friendly one, almost like a friendly ghost, if you will. It's almost a heartwarming tale involving the ghost of a long lost friend and how they're still around and making sure they're taking care of their friend and their family, their living friend and their family, in other words. Once again, it comes from the reddit.com website. They're from the subreddit called Real Ghost Stories, and it comes from a user called Foul Legacy 11, and they aptly titled theirs as Mikey. So let's go ahead and let's share this wonderful encounter here. Then I'd love to hear what your thoughts are with it, and I'll give my own opinions on it afterward. So here's what they stated. First of all, my English is not my first language, so sorry for any misspelled words. This started when I was 4. I remember laying in my bed one night and I was afraid of the monsters in my closet or under my bed. Yes, I was such a kid. Then all of a sudden, a young man was sitting on my bedroom floor, long dark hair that reached his shoulders, and he wore a dark gray sweatshirt and black pants with white shoes. He waved at me and I asked who he was, and he introduced himself as Mikey, and he said that he would be here to keep the monsters away. For some reason, I actually felt safe and was able to fall asleep really fast. The next day, I told my parents about that guy in my room, but they didn't believe me. But since he didn't scare me, it didn't bother me at all. He appeared every night until I entered the 4th grade. We talked about stuff like he was really alive. Also, he seemed like this always happy person that you see nowadays in either anime or cartoons. When I was 7, my dad and I went through some of his old pictures and I noticed a familiar face. I pointed at the guy in the middle of a picture and told him that's Mikey. And so my dad went pale and asked how I knew that. And so I told him again about the guy who always kept the monsters away at night and about the things Mikey and I talked about and his cheerful, always happy nature. That was the very first time seeing my dad cry. He then told me that Mikey was his best friend since elementary school, and he was kind of like his grandparents kind of adopted him since his parents didn't want him, and he was living in an orphanage at the time. He was always getting into trouble for really dumb stuff, and he loved goofing around. He also really loved fighting and did karate since the 1st grade elementary school, so he had my dad's back if he ever got in trouble. He always took time to help his friends, and overall he seemed like a pretty cool guy. My mom later joined us, and they told me a lot of stuff about him and all the goofy BS he used to do. They also told me that a longtime family friend of ours also knew him very well because she had a huge, and I mean a huge, crush on him, but she was 10 years younger, so there was no chance for her until she would have been at least 18. Sadly, that never happened because one day my parents and that other friend found out that Mikey had cancer, and this was in the final stages, and it was at 6 months at best. He died when my dad was 25 and this friend was 15. They were friends because her mom and my grandma were friends. The last thing Mikey told them was that he would always be around to make sure that they would be able to live a happy and carefree life. And when I got into middle school, I couldn't see or hear him anymore, which kind of sucked because it made me happy to talk with him. And so when I was 14, the family friend visited us with her husband and their 4-year-old daughter, and we sat at the dinner table when she all of a sudden started laughing and said, "Mikey told me he used to play with you too." Her mom almost dropped the plate and looked extremely sad. That's why I mentioned the huge crush, because I guess she still has one. And so she asked what her daughter meant when my dad pulled out a picture and asked if Mikey looked like this. She said yes, and the evening turned into another storytelling. And so the friend started crying, and when she and my dad started talking about some trip they had done, the girl then said that Mikey says there is no reason to cry, and that he is always around as he promised. After that, I sometimes heard that she talked with him like I used to do until she couldn't see him anymore. But me and my parents know that he is still around because of my little brother, who just turned 4 recently, and he actually is the reason I post this. My parents and I were talking in the kitchen about some random stuff when my brother walked in with a huge grin and said, "Mikey says hi," and then went into his room. It made me think about all that stuff, the story involving my parents and her friend, everything they told me about him. He never had it easy, but still was always kind and lived his life to the fullest, enjoying each day, getting along with anyone, and always keeping his word. I really wish I would have had the chance to know him when he was still alive. He said one thing to my parents and my dad's friends when they found out about his cancer that really stuck to me. "Just because I won't be with you guys when you grow older doesn't mean I won't be there. I still can be an important part of your life. You just have to make sure that you guys don't connect that with any negative thoughts, but instead with positive ones. If you believe me or not, it's up to you guys, but it happened that way. It definitely made me believe in the paranormal, but also taught me that not every ghost has to be evil." Then that's it. That's everything that the user Foul Legacy 11 said on their story. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that now. First off, what a stark difference, right? So many of my stories have focused, or the encounters here, on really bad stuff, from shadow people almost enjoying scaring the hell out of people, to demons, to exorcisms, to who knows what else, like some other type of entities that are, again, just pure malevolence. But in this case, here you have a good ghost, someone that died at a young age, got hit with cancer, but promised that they would always be around. And sure enough, they did. They stuck around for that user's dad, and then, in other words, taking care of the user themselves up until a certain age, and then afterward, sticking around with some of the other family members as well. It was interesting to note, too, that it was only up to that certain age that he was visible, and then that was it. There was nothing else afterward. It made me wonder what was happening. Was it maybe something along the lines of puberty? Maybe something where it's that transition from being young to an adult where those senses go away. I have read about those theories where it's only during certain ages, especially younger kids, where they can see these things, they can hear these things that most adults wouldn't. So maybe it makes something along the lines of those senses, they go away during puberty. But otherwise, interesting again that he is there, mindful. Also, with regards to those monsters, I wanted to hear more about what those monsters could be, because it seemed like this Mikey guy was definitely doing that, keeping them at bay and making sure that nothing was harming that location, that area. Could it have been part of the location itself, wherever they were living? Who knows? There was nothing there as well. Or could it be that there was other bad things that just happened to be around? And then when that happened, Mikey was going to make sure that he would take care of business and not have anything impact that family there too. Who knows? But either way, though, what a very, very nice, uplifting story when it comes to this Mikey. I was hoping that maybe they could have some kind of more of an encounters that they could chronicle, even drawings. But unfortunately, sometimes in the comments there on the reddit.com website, on these subreddits, the users will follow up with some actual drawings that they've done, showcasing closest interpretation on their end as to what the experience is. But no, nothing along those lines. So, but Mikey, for all intents and purposes, should still be there, wandering around that house, waiting for the next generation of family. I wonder what's going to happen afterward, too, once the last part of that generation that he's familiar with is gone. Because who knows, maybe there'll be great-grandparents, and then there'll be grandsons and so on living in that household. Or if they move away and it's just complete strangers, we'll just have to wait and see. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. What a nice, uplifting story, right? If anybody has any more info on this, anything else I might have missed, then please post those comments below. If you want me to continue with some of these more uplifting stories, let me know in the comments. I'll definitely be happy to do so as well. It all depends on the type of stories that I find. It's just more people will post about the negative ones than the positive ones. It's that nature of things, right? There's always going to be more people talking about bad things, reading about bad things as well, as opposed to having something on the good side. So whatever comes in the future, in terms of those stories, I'll try to find them. If you're interested, just let me know in the comments below. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.